The Blood Pact were first encountered during the Imperial Crusade to liberate the Sabbat Worlds, a chain of nearly 100 inhabited systems along the edge of the Segmentum Pacificus. An oft-disputed area, the Sabbat Worlds had first been colonized as part of the Imperium in N35, when chaos was driven from that sector by the original crusade of Saint Sabbat, a shepherd girl from Hagia, after whom the worlds were named. In the late 600s and early 700s of M41, a vast chaos host commanded by the abominable warlord, or Archon, Nadzibar, swept through the Sabbat worlds and tore them out of Imperial hands. Nadzibar's host, raised in the feral marches beyond Imperial space, was not one single army, but in fact a cooperative alliance of many, each one led by his own demagogue warlord. These warlords became lieutenants, and the names of many live in infamy. Anaquinar Sek, Enoch Innocenti, Shibol Redhand, Sholan Skara, Heritor Asphodel, Nokad the Blighted, Quix of the Eyeless, and Urlok Gar. In 755 M41, the High Lords of Terror charged the Great Slado with the task of raising a liberating army and retaking the Sabbat worlds. Slado, who had already assembled a considerable force to victoriously prosecute the Kulan Wars, was named Warmaster, and quickly built a formidable crusade host. For 10 years, this massive imperial assault struggled to gain a foothold in the Sabbat worlds, for the Archon's armies were monstrously powerful. Eventually, Warmaster Slado maneuvered his crusade force into place to take on a major part of Nadzibar's strength at Balhut. Though Slado himself perished at this fierce battle, this was a famous imperial victory. Archon Nadzibar was slain. Under Makaroth, Slado's successor as Warmaster, the Imperial Crusade began to drive the Chaos presence from the Sabbat worlds. But even with the Archon dead, this was not an easy task. By 772 M41, after protracted infighting, a new Archon had emerged from the ranks of the warlords to take Nadzibar's place. This was Urlok Gar. His forces began to counterattack Makaroth's, thus beginning the third and most bitter phase of the protracted conflict. Gar's Blood Pact had been encountered in combat during the early years of the Crusade, but never properly identified. However, once he became Archon, the Blood Pact became a backbone element of the Chaos Force. It is believed many other archenemy units and divisions, wishing to prove their loyalty, converted to the Blood Pact. The trained and disciplined nature of the Pact also appealed to many converted, corrupted, or traitorous Imperial Guard units, captured during the occupation of the Sabbat worlds. Within just a few years, the Crusade forces came to recognize the Blood Pact as the elite infantry of the arch-enemy. The Blood Pact is a martial force of distinction, a fact that also takes its enemies by surprise. The forces of Chaos are often feral, ruthless, and zealous. While savage assets in battle, these qualities often mitigate against effective battlefield operations. Unlike, for example, the Kith, who followed Sholan Skara, the Blood Pact is not an army of poorly equipped fanatics who overrun their enemies by sheer berserk fury. The Blood Pact is drilled and trained in warfare techniques to a standard of competence at least equivalent to the Imperial Guard. They have excellent and often captured communication systems and an unshakable chain of command, meaning that they can be deployed with tactical precision with competence. The Blood Pact can hit specific targets or accomplish specific missions, and individual warriors have the intelligence and field training to operate independently if necessary for the Pact's interests. This is what makes them so dangerous. They are not mindless fanatics. They are excellent battlefield soldiers in the sworn service of Chaos. Certain elite or veteran sections of the Pact form the so-called Death Brigades, representing the finest and most ruthless storm squads in the Blood Pact. Though comparatively few in number, the Death Brigades are often encountered at the spearhead of assaults, as the private company of senior Chaos leaders, or deployed on specialist missions. and are the most dreaded of all the Blood Pacts. The sheer efficiency of Blood Pact operations can be demonstrated by the Battle of Khornate Peninsula on Belshir Binary in 771. Belshir is a vital and much contested world due to the Promethium wells, refineries and processing depots clustered around the Gulf of Akor. The peninsula itself provides a land bridge access between the Hinter Deserts and the Gulf Coast highways linking the refineries. Here, in ferocious sun-blasted terrain, a force of 200 Blood Pact troopers supported by 4 Stork tanks and 2 Loxatl brood groups cut off, overwhelmed and annihilated a force of 3,000 Imperial Guardsmen. The Guard elements were advancing across the peninsula with the intention of capturing the Bishtan Aktok refinery, and a recon assessment had reported only a limited number of hostiles active in the zone. The Pact force, greatly outnumbered, was commanded by an officer called Vesh Etogar, a second word, possibly indicative of a rank, as in Demigar or Colonel. Under his strict command, the Pact force lay in baking heat for 3 days without faltering or breaking line until the Imperial unit had moved into the cone of their ambush. The resulting slaughter lasted 22 minutes. None of the guardsmen survived, and the refinery remained in the hands of the archenemy for a further 15 months.